Hello all! Rick still here. I am chained to my desk. Send help. This video is exploring the planet Vulcan, but I'd like to begin with answering the question, why is Vulcan called Vulcan? Vulcan, in mythology, is the Roman god of fire, forged deserts, and it is from him that we get the word volcanic. As you can tell, he's all about hot stuff, which makes it awfully convenient that in Star Trek we have a species from a habitable but hot planet called the Vulcans. So how did this happen? Boring real-world answer, because we humans have a pantheon that included Vulcan and the name fit. Way more interesting fictional speculative in-universe answer? Because we humans have a pantheon that included Vulcan and the name fit. In Apocrypha, and even hinted at in the shows, the Vulcan people do not refer to themselves as Vulcan, but have adopted the name for its ease of use. I'll elaborate. Vulcan itself, the planet, has several names in the Vulcan's own tongue, such as Minshara, from where Starfleet gets the M-class planet designation, Nivasa, Nivar, and Vulcan. That last one sounds similar enough to the word Vulcan, so it's easy to think that it colloquially became humanized as Vulcan, especially due to the connotations to fire and heat already associated with the Roman deity. We see a similar thing happen with humans and the Klingon world of Kronos, being pronounced and even spelt as Kronos for a time. Human ignorance, it never changes. The Vulcan language also has many words that are too complex to pronounce for most humanoids, such as many of their names, so abbreviations are used. Spock is actually such a name, so it's not hard to imagine that the Vulcan people simply took the term Vulcan and applied it, rather than having most others they encountered struggle with a more difficult name. After all, it's the most logical path of least resistance, and one that reflects a lack of emotional pride to simply go with the most pragmatic solution. I've never been caught mispronouncing things. To be fair, other species do this to humans, with Terrans, Earthers, Federation, and so on. Most Trek humans simply go with whatever inoffensive label is easiest for the other, but that's enough on that. Vulcan is located in the 40 Eridani trinary star system. On a galactic scale, it is right next door to Sol, being only 17 light-years away. It has no actual moons, but it shares its orbital path with another world called Tkut that is frequently seen in the sky. It is unknown if there are any settlements on Tkut, but there are on its moon, making it the closest thing the Vulcans have to a lunar colony. In real life, there is a terrestrial world detected in 2018 in this system. However, it is way too close to its suns to support life, but that would probably mean it is a furnace world, so... Vulcan! In lore, it is the tidal forces between Tkut and Vulcan that make it so volcanically active, while the trinary star system keeps the atmosphere hot. Despite its reputation for being such a desert planet, it was still an M-class world with oceans, plant life and rainfall, just comparatively less than Earth. Its gravity was 1.4 that of Earth, but it shared a 24-hour day-night cycle. Vulcan was divided up into various provinces, all unified under a central government, the Vulcan High Command, spread across its continents. It has been the closest Earth ally since its first contact, and was a founding member of the Coalition of Planets, then the United Federation in 2161. As such, it generally has benefited from the shared technology of the member worlds, as well as, eventually, becoming a large contributor. Its capital city is Shekar, on the edge of the Forge Desert near the Lelangon Mountains. The city itself is from way before even Surak, placing it at pre-300 AD, and the immediate land around the city is cultivated and kept against the deserts around it, making it an effective oasis. It is here that the High Command is situated. The Forge Desert is one of the harshest on Vulcan, and prone to electrically charged sandstorms whipped up by the devastating winds, which fits nicely into another piece of apocryphal lore, that of the effects of the Vulcans' own atomic war. Canonically, around the time of Awakening, when the Vulcans embraced Surak's logical teachings of emotional suppression, they were engaged in their own planet-wide world war with atomic bombs. Other sources go on to elaborate, saying Vulcan's magnetic poles were altered by this war, which also created a third pole. This ambience is responsible for many of the electrically charged effects and areas of interference across Vulcan. There is also a location called the Anvil, which is described as a blistering plain, which, alongside the name, conjures up images of a flat, barren, cooked rock. The planet has many relics preserved from its pre-Surak times, which make great areas of study, and these were often coupled with the planet's natural features. There was a city known as Gol, which was brought to ruin during an ancient war, Ral, a coastal town, and many other settlements. The Vulcan record keeping is incredibly accurate, even recording their incidents of alien contact from eons ago in full detail, so the planet has a lot of history for the curious scholar. Although you go back far enough, it does fade into myth, such as, their creation. Many speculate that they were descended from another species, the Aratan. The fire plains are of high importance throughout Vulcan history. These are long stretches of lava from tectonically active fault lines that snake between tall pillars of stone. There have historically been many battles across the fire plains which have been recorded in classical Vulcan literature, and there are many tall statues of Vulcans carved into some of the untouched stone. Judging by the form of these statues resembling monks, and that the Temple of Kir is located in the depths of these plains, I assume this was a bastion of Surak's philosophy. That is an assumption, however, and the temple could have been adopted post-Surak. Other sacred sites of Vulcan include the Temple of Amanak, where aspects of Vulcan religion and faith were performed. It's not clarified just what faith the Vulcan people do practice aside from their philosophies of Surak. That would make its own interesting video, so focusing back on Vulcan itself for now. Alongside the fire plains, we have many dormant and active volcanoes and mountain ranges, such as Mount Tahana and the most famous Mount Seleya. Seleya is within the Forge, the closest settlement being Takarth Sanctuary, which doubled as the site of extensive historical catacombs containing the remains of many Vulcan monks from Surak's time and before. Mount Seleya is so revered that it even appears as the primary symbol of the Vulcan Idic, and this is because it was where Surak began his teachings. I've said it before and I'll say it again, Vulcans love triangles. To this day, the site is still an active place of ceremonies, and while freely accessible, is fiercely protected. There are temples, sites of meditation, amphitheatres and such scattered across its ascent and peaks, where the Vulcan elders gather to discuss Surak's philosophy, interpretations, and offer guidance. In orbit of Vulcan are its own series of Federation shipyards and space stations, the 40 Eridani A construction yards, akin to the San Francisco fleet yards over Earth, which are Starfleet operated, showing the strong ties to the Federation that the planet has. Spoilers for Discovery in the next minute or so, but by the 32nd century, Spock's unification movement has resulted in the Romulans returning to Vulcan, and the primary name of the planet being changed to Nivar, which means two-form in Vulcan, when referring to duality, specifically in the arts. This name was selected because after the destruction of Romulus and Remus, it seems that Vulcan became the returned homeworld of the Romulan people over the next few centuries. But the governance between the two cousin species remains partly separate, it's currently unclear. So that about sums up the planet of Vulcan. There are tons of other places, temples and geographical features that are mentioned, but most of them are named only and not elaborated much. On observation, there are many of these places located in the deserts of Vulcan, where I'd expect to find far more along the limited coastlines of the planet. But perhaps there is simply not enough real estate along these waterfronts to support the entire Vulcan population. Either way, the Vulcans have adapted very well to their world, being able to seek out and thrive in any habitable corner, peak or crevasse of their arid planet. The Vulcan people went from fighting each other over limited resources to working together to cultivate the tameable areas and thrive. Relics of their violent past, however, scar the land, and the magma that bubbles beneath the surface of the planet, occasionally surfacing, is a good mirror for the Vulcan psyche itself. The planet is inherently dangerous and fiery, but through a respectful taming of its elements, those depths have been controlled. Thanks for watching this video on Vulcan, Nivar, or Minshara. I'll continue to look into other planets of the Trek universe, and possibly beyond if you like this sort of focus. Trek may be the franchise I know best, but I'm willing to look into others with a smaller scope. So, thanks again for watching. I've been Rick, and I'll see you again later. Goodbye.